Tonight, severe storms and flash flooding targeting the Midwest, the fast-moving wildfire near the Grand Canyon exploding in size, and the mandatory evacuations, and the search for the missing in central Texas as the region faces yet another flash flood threat. First, severe storms bashing the heartland stretching from western Kentucky to Michigan. Overnight, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts from Colorado to Illinois, knocking down trees and power lines. A life-threatening flash flood emergency in Davenport, Iowa. Our weather team tracking it all. And in central Texas, memorials in the midst of devastation. At least 129 dead, with more than 160 still missing. We're with Navy SEALs and their team of expert divers assisting with the search and recovery efforts. Also tonight, new details on the Air India flight crash. Was it sabotage? The confusion in the cockpit as fuel to the plane's engines was shut off just seconds after takeoff. The pilots questioning each other. What we're learning from a new report. The deep divisions among President Trump's administration and his supporters over the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Top Justice Department and FBI officials pointing the finger at each other over the decision to close the high-profile probe. What we're learning tonight. The new tariff threat. President Trump now says he'll impose 30% tariffs on imports from Mexico and the European Union. The high-stakes negotiations. Selena Wang is at the White House tonight. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to temporarily stop those controversial immigration sweeps and arrests in California, saying they are being made without probable cause. How the White House is responding. Those raids triggering protests across the U.S. The New York Yankees' Aaron Judge makes history, how he slugged his way into the record books. America strong, reuniting those surviving campers with their cherished items after the catastrophic floods in central Texas.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. I'm Martha Raddatz, in for Whit Johnson. We begin with severe storms and flash flooding targeting the heartland. Millions under flood watches and the search and recovery in central Texas after the deadly and catastrophic flooding. Severe weather targeting the heartland overnight. This time-lapse video capturing an ominous view of storms rolling through parts of Illinois. And a flash flooding emergency in Davenport, Iowa. Cars submerged underwater as residents wade through the waist-deep floodwaters. We're with Navy SEALs as they assist with the search and recovery mission in central Texas, with 129 dead and more than 160 still missing. The region is now facing yet another flash flood threat. Our weather team is standing by with the forecast. But first, ABC's Jacqueline Lee leads us off tonight from Kerrville, Texas.
Tonight, the flash flood threat facing the heartland, millions under flood watches. Iowa recovering from these devastating flash floods in the last 24 hours.
Girl, that is so scary.
I'm pretty sure there is people in there.
Multiple cars submerged, some residents there up to their waists in water.
Look what's going down the street.
As cars drive in the opposite direction, you can see a portable toilet being carried away by the fast-moving floodwaters. And parts of the Grand Canyon evacuated due to massive and rapidly growing wildfires spanning more than 20,000 acres. In Texas, communities grieving. Last night, a vigil held in Kerr County for the more than 120 people killed by that devastating flash flooding.
And I'm just so thankful to be here. My heart goes out to all of these folks.
The Hammond family remembering their 17-year-old daughter, Malaya. Their last view of her, she was floating on her back, singing hymns down the river after saving her siblings from that raging water.
Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory.
On Monday, they found her body a mile away, washing up on the shore of a church.
So just knowing that we found her body and knowing 100% that she is now with God, it's brought us so much closure.
But the search continues for the more than 160 people still missing. We exclusively embedded with a team of over 30 Navy SEALs, volunteering their elite training to comb through the terrain.
None of us have seen anything like this, but I think everybody was just taking it in and just like realizing what just happened here.
We've seen a lot
And this is the worst you've seen?
Yeah. Stuff overseas is different. This hits home.
And tonight, a new report from the Associated Press indicates that Camp Mystic, where 27 campers and counselors died from those devastating floodwaters, were originally included on a 2011 national flood insurance map that would have required it to have higher insurance costs and stricter regulations on new construction. But after successive appeals over several years, federal regulators removed numerous buildings at Camp Mystic from those maps. FEMA downplaying that report tonight, saying those flood maps do not predict where it will flood or where it has flooded in the past. Meanwhile, here on the ground, a new flash flood threat to the area as cleanup continues. Martha.
Jacqueline, thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. And Danny, Central Texas is facing another flash flood threat. Time it out for us.
Martha, that new flash flood threat, part of the same system that triggered the severe weather in the Midwest yesterday. And that severe threat continues tonight from Paducah up to Michigan, with damaging wind being the primary concern. But back to the soaking in the southern plains, flood watches for much of Oklahoma and Texas as rounds of rain and storms sweep through this weekend. The heaviest rain focused north and west of the Texas Hill Country so far, but that changes tomorrow as downpours shift south, focusing the flooding on areas still cleaning up from last weekend. Meanwhile, in the west, it's hot and dry, fueling those wildfires, and now the heat builds north. A heat advisory in Portland on Sunday with highs in the mid-90s, and even the typically hot desert Southwest sees extreme heat heading into the work week near 112 in Vegas on Monday. Martha?
We're all keeping track of that, Danny. Thank you. Now to the new details on the Air India crash and new questions about possible sabotage. The confusion in the cockpit as fuel to the plane's engines would shut off just seconds after takeoff. The pilots questioning each other. The new details tonight from a preliminary report. Here's ABC's Lama Hassan.
Tonight, the mystery into what caused Air India Flight 171, flying from Ahmedabad bound for London's Gatwick Airport, to crash last month deepens. The newly released preliminary report shows investigators focusing now on those fuel cutoff switches and whether this was a deliberate act.
Fuel switches deliberately were turned off, shutting off fuel to the engines and shutting those two engines down. What we don't know is who did it, and we don't know why they did it.
New questions about why both control switches that provide the engines with fuel were turned off about 3 seconds into the flight and turned back on about 10 seconds later. New images from the aftermath do show those fuel control switches firmly in the run position, but it was too late. The engines failed to regain thrust.
We know that these switches didn't get bumped. We know that it was a deliberate action where you have to actually lift the switch and move it to the other position. It's not something that can be bumped from one position to another.
According to the report, both pilots are heard discussing the switches in the cockpit voice recording.
We do know that one of the pilots asked the other pilot, why did you move those switches? Why did you cut off the fuel to both of the engines? The other pilot said, I didn't do it. One of them is not telling the truth.
There have been at least 2 deliberate plane crashes in recent years. The German Wings co-pilot intentionally bringing down the plane in the Alps, killing 150 people on board. And Egypt Air Flight 990, the co-pilot crashing the aircraft 60 miles south of Nantucket.
And at this stage, investigators are not looking at technical or maintenance failures. Steve said that the report is very clear that there is nothing wrong with the 787 or the engines that power that airplane. Martha.
Lana, thank you.